Right now, someone online is mourning the death of the human soul because a computer somewhere made an image. In that same city, someone is finishing a 10-hour shift, cleaning a hospital ward, driving a night bus, or stocking shelves, or cooking in a kitchen, and still cannot afford rent. Right now, a person with thousands to spend on equipment and locations looks upon a shot that utilized AI for its visual effects in pure disgust. How could you do such a thing? Made by a person who could barely afford the monthly subscription for the AI they used. We are told AI is a catastrophe, a threat to humanity. But if you step back from the panic, one question cuts through all of it. Who are we actually protecting? Are we protecting human expression? Or are we protecting the gatekeepers and a hierarchy that was broken long before AI generated a single line of code? The illusion of the status quo. The current outrage rests on a romantic myth. The idea that the pre-AI world was a pure, harmonious paradise where genuine talent was always rewarded and everyone had an equal opportunity to create and to fulfill themselves in creativity. But that system never existed. The status quo has always been governed by lottery ticket luck, capital, and massive barriers to entry. We live in a society that happily pays a footballer more than a nurse's salary every step on a pitch, where a select few gain fame and generational wealth off their charisma, their looks, or their vocal cords, while thousands of equally passionate, talented people are forced to stack shelves for the rest of their life, breaking their body until they have nothing left just to survive and barely being able to do so. For decades, the ability to bring complex creative ideas to life was locked behind a massive financial paywall, one that most people couldn't even dream of climbing. If you had a brilliant idea for a film, a record, or a video game, but lacked 10 grand for studio time, a big production crew, or years of specialized software training because you couldn't even afford the software to train on it, that great idea you had died right there in your head on your lunch break. Go on there, Johnny, get back to work, keep scrubbing that floor for what, £11 per hour? The traditional creative class had a monopoly not on superior vision, but on the time, money, and equipment required for technical execution. When people scream about AI destroying art, what they are often accidentally defending is creative exclusivity. AI does not replace human vision. It collapses the cost of technical execution. It lowers the barrier to entry so dramatically that the playing field gets leveled overnight. Suddenly, a lion's chef with an extraordinary narrative in their head has access to the same production value as a studio with £1 million budget. A hospital worker with a dope melody in their head no longer needs to either find a producer and pay them thousands just to bring their idea to life, or sell their soul to a record label who will take the majority of their money and leave them with scraps. They can go onto AI and bring their vision to life immediately. They can just go into it and go, and the AI will add all these instruments to it, and then you can flow with it and you can bring your idea to life. Isn't that great? The results are already visible. Independent filmmakers are utilizing AI for storyboarding, VFX, and so on and so forth to produce amazing production quality films that can contend in a festival on barely any budget. Bedroom musicians are releasing fully orchestrated tracks without session players. Aspiring novelists with no illustration background and with no money to pay an illustrator are creating stunning covers and concept art in minutes. The floor has been raised. The incumbents no longer control who gets to build and when they get to build, under what conditions they get to build, and those who relied on exclusivity rather than pure originality are feeling the ground shrink beneath them. When economic and artistic arguments fail to stop the tide, the backlash always shifts to moral panic. They're taking all of our water overnight. The narrative has shifted from AI will replace you to AI is melting the planet and draining all of our reservoirs. We are inundated with headlines and warnings and social media posts that every prompt is consuming a bottle of water, that data centers are straining the power grid, and that using generative tools is an act of environmental violence. Let's keep it real. Infrastructure, energy, and water strain are legitimate engineering problems that require real solutions, green power, and strict corporate accountability. But notice the hypocrisy in how this panic is deployed. Nobody called for this moral panic on digital technology when 4K video streaming, high-frequency stock trading, cryptocurrency, or endless doom-scrolling algorithms began consuming country-scale amounts of electricity in data centers that also require cooling. And guess what they used to cool it? Nobody told the working class that bringing HD contents into their household was a moral failure. Why? The moment an ordinary person on their lunch break uses that same amount of electricity and energy to render a movie, compose a song, or build software, suddenly, oh no, all of that energy is a luxury we just cannot afford. Using environmental anxiety to shame individuals while leaving massive corporate consumption untouched isn't climate activism. It's an attempt to make everyday people feel guilty for accessing the most powerful, creative tool in human history. I'm not saying the transition will be painless. Entire skill sets will depreciate, platforms will be flooded with derivative, low-effort content, questions around copyright, training data, and the value of human authorship deserve serious answers. But we have to distinguish between protecting workers' livelihoods and preserving an elitist hierarchy. Job security under modern capitalism was already an illusion long before AI entered the chat. The true shift happening right now is not the death of creativity, it is a migration of value. History is littered with the exact same moral panics. When the printing press arrived, scribes decreed the death of hand-copied illumination and the soulless mechanical reproduction of knowledge. Photography was called a threat to painting and portraiture. Now, anyone with a box could now capture reality. The rise of synthesizers and drum machines and digital audio workstations triggered outrage from real musicians each time the doomsayers were categorically wrong. Not only did these technologies not kill art, they exploded access, birthed new genres, and forced creators to compete on vision rather than technical mastery. AI is the latest chapter in this long story of tools liberating the human imagination. If artificial intelligence ends up flattening the creative playing field, it won't be a disaster, it will be a historic equalizer. We'll see an explosion of personal expression, stories rooted in lived experiences from every corner of society, art that reflects actual human diversity rather than the narrow demographics of those who could previously afford to create, and a mass liberation of experimentation as the cost of failure plummets. This doesn't diminish the role of masters, it multiplies the number of people who get to strive towards mastery. We shouldn't be mourning a system that reserved creative realization for the privileged few while forcing the majority into relentless grind in jobs that don't even pay a fraction of what it costs to live. We should be celebrating a future where creativity is no longer a luxury, but a universal right, accessible to anyone with a vision and something to say. The wall is crumbling down, and I say, let it fall.